you get what you can, man. And I 100% agree with Rob's daily ritual of waking up to Bloodsport every morning. If I could do that every Saturday, watch Bloodsport in the morning with Van Damme, it would be a gift, a blessing, and also a curse.
Although he does a lot of like noises in that movie.
That's
because
he got sand thrown in your eyes, man.
He gets blinded.
If you got sand thrown in our eyes.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be like, I'd be like, what the hell?
First off, if you were in a ring of death with that dude jacked up on steroids, yeah, you would be screaming as well. So
yeah, sure. But I wouldn't be like,
maybe you would. Okay, I'll find out what it is. My cousin's an eye doctor, and I'll shoot her a text. I'm like, important eye question.
I'll tell you what. Just watch any wrestling movie. Watch every wrestling main event card from the '80s, and people always got the same stuff thrown in their eyes. They didn't start wailing around like a Cabbage Patch Kid without batteries.
They should be, because it's underwear sand. It's even the worst. You should be going that even more. Like, you know what you know now. Usually it was tucked in their underwear.
Yeah.
So beneath their tights. So I would scream even more.
I think it was tainted.
Oh God.
Yeah. Welcome to the Girls World Quarantine podcast. We are here today to talk about Mortal Kombat, the 2021 version of the film. Oh wow, John 3D printed that mask.
It's gotta be painted.
Yeah, so here we go. I'm gonna go full into this. We're gonna talk briefly about it. This is our full spoiler review, so if you haven't seen it, we're just gonna ruin everything. So you've been warned. Of course, this is Mortal Kombat, based on the video game, video game.
Based on Bloodsport, technically, I think.
We'll go to that in a minute.
I think they were trying to make Bloodsport.
It's been directed by Simon McQuaid. John, I haven't even finished my thing yet. This is his first directorial debut, so take that for what it is. It was written by Greg Russo and David Callahan. So he has a lot of writing credits, which will surprise you. He wrote The Expendables or Screenplay, Godzilla, Wonder Woman 84, Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings, and he also wrote and created Jean-Claude Van Johnson. So like there's some hits and misses, some good like, hey, and then some ooh. Mortal Kombat. This budget was $55 million. So you definitely saw that on screen. And there we go. So that is the tease. So again, this is the Heroes World Quarantine podcast. I am your host, Stu Pei. I am here today with Andre and John, the owners and proprietors of the Heroes World store. So say hello to the people at home.
Hello. Howdy.
And of course, with the Prince of Mischief himself, Mr. Rob Cadet, please say hello.
Hello.
So now here's the game that we've all been waiting for. I don't know. I'm going to randomly pick someone, unless someone would like to volunteer to give us an unhelpful review. No, I can't, because Andre's too far on the other direction. I don't know which way he's going to be, positive or negative, but I know he's too far the other way to give a review that is not neither positive or negative. So Rob or John, it's a coin flip between you guys.
I could totally do it. Come on.
All right. Are you both? All right, Andre, you're going to give us an unhelpful summary of the movie Mortal Kombat without any positive or negative adjectives.
All right. Whew, this is amazing. So as Stu said, based on the Mortal Kombat video game, we have the impending tournament to decide who will rule the realms. We have an unlikely chosen hero with a bloodline that he doesn't even know his true power and ability. And he gets recruited by Raiden in order to compete in the grandest of tournaments. But the forces of evil are bound to not let this tournament happen. And the fate of our realm, Earthrealm, hangs in the balance.
That is more lore that you gave me than actual movie. So congratulations, Andre. That was great. There we go. That was by far the best one. John, take notes going forward, because Andre did it correctly. Instead of giving teases. All right, here we go. We're going full review of this movie. I've already talked to you about this, all the screenplay, director, the budgets. I'm not going to go too far because, frankly, Whew, here we go. John, give us your thoughts, full spoilers on Mortal Kombat, the 2021 film that you were hyped about, that you were jazzed about, that you couldn't wait for, with starring our boy and our friend Louis Tam, who we all love, starring Canadian Lindo Liu. Lots of good actors in this. Lindo Lin, sorry. Lots of good people in this film. Tell us your thoughts on Mortal Kombat. Go.
Yeah, so Mortal Kombat is essentially okay, sorry, hold on. Give me a second.
Okay, we're gonna pause and we're gonna go to Rob. As Rob, go for it.
I really like going after John. Okay, so if anybody has watched the Heroes World Sidekick show, you will know that last Monday we reviewed the 1995 or rewatched the 1995 Mortal Kombat movie, and I hated it. I absolutely despised it. I actually went on the record
and said, your first time seeing it?
The 95 one? No, I hadn't seen it since it came out.
Okay.
So, almost, what is it? 20 years later, 18 years later. And I was like, oh my God, this is a piece of shit. So much so that I actually said it made me not want to watch this movie anymore. I actually had to watch the trailers to kind of get hyped up on it.
Well, you watch this one, and did you watch Annihilation as well? Or
no, I will not. So stop with, I won't stop. But I have seen Annihilation, and it's been erased from my memory banks, like Johnny Mnemonic, gone. So I gotta say, I actually like this movie. I actually liked it, and I'll tell you why. Because first of all, I am not a Mortal Kombat game player. I played the first one, maybe the second one. it's just not something. There are a lot of hardcore fans. I think that it's up to like 11 or 12 right now. Just much like Madden football, they get the game every year. New players, stats, whatever. It's not costumes, I guess, uniforms. They're diehards, and so maybe it didn't hit well for them, but for a guy who just wanted to see some decent action movie I could turn my brain off, much akin to most of the Fast and the Furious movies. I quite enjoyed it. I watched it with my son, who's 12, so maybe that was a bad parenting decision based on some of the
it's fine
some
it's
of the fatalities. But I gotta say, we were both killing ourselves laughing at Kano. I mean, his lines and delivery were just hilarious. We were killing ourselves laughing. Some of these fatalities were pretty cool. It was a very quick watch. Like, it didn't drag for me. I'm a big fan of Hiroki Sanada. If I've butchered the name, I apologize. But every time he appears in a movie or a TV show, for whatever reason, there's a sense of like just pure joy when I see him. Like, he was amazing in 47 Ronin. I remember him appearing in Endgame for like 3 minutes, and I was like, oh, and I was like, oh. I just there's something
Hawkeye,
right? Yeah, or he was a Ronin at that point. So there's just something about him and his presence that just tickles me pink, and I really enjoy it. But with all that said, the one person whom this movie rests on their shoulders, Louis Tan, I gotta say, I was thoroughly disappointed with his acting and delivery in this movie. I went back. I didn't go back. I went onto YouTube and I watched his performance as the Drunken Master from Iron Fist Season 1. And his delivery, his acting in that was amazing, right? Like, just his delivery of those lines. In comparison to this, those moments where he's sitting and talking to Sonya Blade, or even his own wife and daughter, and they're on the couch, I was like, why is he so wooden? It really took me out of watching the movie. And these are not A-list actors in this. I mean, the only other recognizable actor aside from Mr. Sanada that I mentioned was Mehcad Brooks from, if you were a fan of Heroes from 2009, you'd recognize him.
Yep.
But aside from that, I was just, it really, his delivery in this really shocked me. Like, I was just shocked by the whole thing. Overall, I love the fight scenes. I thought the fight scenes were a lot of fun, especially the first fight scene way back in ancient Japan. but yeah, I mean, you know, I have an 26 hours left in my rental. I will probably rewatch it again. You know,
Andre,
because it really is. Listen, this is the definition of a popcorn movie. You don't need, when you watch a movie called Mortal Kombat, you want there to be wicked fight scenes, and everything else is periphery. You don't really give a shit. Yeah. And this movie, for me, it delivered in the fight stuff, heads and tails above what the 95 movie did. So for that reason alone, I don't need this is not fried green tomatoes. I don't need it to be.
It's not Driving Miss Daisy.
No, it's not Driving Miss Daisy. So I don't need
Shawshank.
it to be. No, it's not Scent of a Woman. It's none of those movies. It is Mortal Kombat, and it delivered what it set out to do. And for that, I'm giving it.
It didn't, because there was no Mortal Kombat at the end. There was no Mortal Kombat tournament, but we're gonna get in a second.
Okay, that's a very fair point.
it was a leading up to Mortal Kombat, but there was no Mortal Kombat.
Right. This is a prequel to Mortal Kombat. Although, like, there was okay. So the absence of a tournament, there was still a Mortal Kombat fight. So I guess it's just a matter of
Mortal Kombat with the C, because yes, they were combating, but Mortal Kombat with a K didn't happen. So we're gonna preview that. But all right, John. Now that you're back from duties, tell us your thoughts on this.
You said duties.
Okay, so quick primer before we really get into this, and I know Andre's
already been into it already. You've been away.
We've already seen an indication of where Andre lies on this. So I'm gonna quickly rattle off the history of fighting game movies. So we had Street Fighter, we had King of Fighters, we had Tekken, which actually has a sequel, which I can't even imagine to even watch the trailer for. We had Dead or Alive, we had Double Dragon, if you want to backtrack, and then we have Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which you guys mentioned before. I don't even want to mention Chun-Li of the Street Fighter franchise with
that has some good moments in Chun-Li.
No, you can't even say that, Stu. Sorry.
No, it does. No,
that's stricken from the record. Stu talked anything about Chun-Li. And then the closest we have to a legit video game movie is actually 1995's Mortal Kombat 1. We actually did a podcast where we chose the best video game movie, and Rob, despite saying he hated Mortal Kombat, picked Mortal Kombat as the #1 best video game adaptation. And if you start rattling the list of video game adaptations, the list is even worse. So, and I have seen all these fighting game movies. So if anyone wants to challenge me in things that didn't live up to expectations, or representation, or faithfulness to the game, like Andre loves source material. If you want to argue any of those with me, I've got this whole 6-shooter or more full of these bullets that are all these other fighting movies that have woefully disappointed me. So Mortal Kombat is the closest, and then if any way you can get closer is when you start diving into anime, and maybe you can count Fatal Fury in there. But with that being said, this movie is exactly what they wished they could have made in 1995. It is essentially that movie that they wanted to drop back then with all the money they threw at it. But now it's in 2021. So yes, the acting is not stellar. Especially, Rob does mention Louis Tan, who is my guy. So it really hurts to say this, but he was one of the weaker points of the movie. But if you watch the movie, I don't know if it's because of COVID or just the priorities they had of shooting. There's a lot of a head talking cut to another head talking in the back of probably a stand-in's head. So I don't think a lot of these actors actually got to.
No, apparently they were.
No, that was filmed a while ago, man.
It was filmed in Australia.
Okay, well, I guess they didn't end up on the same set. I don't know why.
Was talking about it. It's like, no, they were there all the time. Like, they had Australia was pretty much contained, so there was a little thing, but they were in Australia. Like, that's why all the Marvel movies are being filmed right there. Like, they're all.
There was definitely some weird cutting and people not being in the scene at the same time, or maybe just the way they shot it. But yeah, unfortunately, but they didn't give these actors much to work with. But what they did hire them for is their physical talent. So the positives of this movie is every character looks pretty much exactly like they do in the video game. Like, there's no mistaking any character going, is that supposed to be this such and such from the video game? Every single one was a fantastic representation of what they are in the game. And the costumes were I feel like the costumes were pretty much flawless victory on the costumes. They all looked exactly like they do in the game. Even they had 2 really obscure characters from Mortal Kombat that no one plays. They look exactly like their counterparts. No, Cabal is in several games. He's actually a fan favorite. I don't know why they chose that weird method of him talking and acting, but he's been.
Oh, do you know who the voice of Cabal is?
No, who is it?
It's Damon Herman, who was a famous actor in a TV show, John, that you love. You know who he is?
No, I'd have to watch.
Dewey Crowder.
Oh, yo, I love that guy. The gator teeth. Yeah. Oh man, that's.
And he was
okay,
also
now he's elevated to somewhat better. But
yeah,
anyway,
it was also
the costumes.
In Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But yeah, he's Australian too, so no way you would have realized that. But
yeah. So the costumes 100% flawless. Every character kind of fought in the style that they have in the game. You know, Kano's doing kind of street brawling moves. Obviously Lewis Tan is a completely new character, so he's just doing MMA and that kind of stuff, which actually is a style that doesn't super exist in the game. So I'm looking forward to that being incorporated. But you if you want to talk about those other fighting game movies where people fight, like the Tekken movies where the stars are Kazuya and Jin, who have a very specific fighting style, and then they just proceed to fight a completely different style, which really sucks. So all these characters fought like they do in the game, and they did a lot of moves. Melina had her teleport kick. Liu Kang had his chicken bicycle kick that Rob, I'm sure, loved that. Kung Lao did his same teleports. Like all these characters are very faithful renditions of their video game counterparts. And that brings me to, so it's essentially a fighting game. It's almost like my summary of the movie. If I did the summary, would have been like someone was playing a video game. We had these 8 actors and we just paired them up and did fighting, because they had stages for every different fight. So as a Mortal Kombat player, I played a lot of 9, 10, 11, all the new ones, and played a lot of 1 and 2, and skipped everything in the middle, like most people. The stages and fatalities are very, very
faithful,
influenced by the video games. Oh, now you've got Lewis Tan's or Cole Young's MMA fighting stage. Oh, now you have the ice version of his fighting stage. Oh, now we're going to go to the warehouse. This is the warehouse fighting stage. Oh, we're going to go to Sonya Blade's trailer. We have the Sonya, this, it's essentially a video game. So it's a real shame that they actually don't have either Mortal Kombat 12 releasing at the same time, or they don't have a skin pack that's going to go and accompany this movie. Because I definitely was getting the itch to play some Mortal Kombat with this. But that's crazy. But that, I don't know if I can say much else other than I was very happy with all the fights, everything put together. And I think where this movie has its issue is in their setup. So the trailers and the 7-minute clip they released before this dropped were very serious in tone. And they made it look like, if you guys have watched the Mortal Kombat Legacy shorts, it made it look like they were going for, almost like a 7 or like a crime, like Sub-Zero basically looked like a Jason Voorhees or like a horror character. So they kind of pushed into that, whereas they should have leaned the other way. They should have leaned into the cheesiness. They should have leaned into 1995. They should have had round 1 fight pop up on the screen, because there's essentially a whole bunch of scenes where they reset and they start a new round. And then even when they're walking in the desert and it's Sonya and Kano and they're about to fight, I'm like, oh, now we're gonna get Sonya versus Kano, and they should have went Sonya versus Kano round 1, and like they should have just leaned into that instead of releasing a 7-minute super serious Last Samurai style clip, which totally destroys the kind of feel of this movie. They're supposedly going to do 4 more movies. I'm sure Stu might bring it up after.
I'll bring it up. Yeah.
So I'll stop talking. I'll let Andre get in. But overall, I was happy with it, but definitely room for improvement, especially the entire. I think Andre's going to get into it. The story, the story, and the reasons why they got to the certain points, all that stuff. But everything else, action, fighting, look, style, they definitely should have abused that Mortal Kombat, that new remix of the Mortal Kombat track more instead of just using it at the end. But that would be leaning into the cheesiness that I'm mentioning. So sorry, go ahead.
All right. So you like the movie?
Yeah, overall, I like the movie. There are some major issues with it, though. Yes.
All right, Andre. We can tell by your face that this is Andre rant. So Release the Kraken. Go for it.
All right, everybody, get their popcorn ready and sit down. Okay, so I'm happy that John enjoyed it. I'm curious to how Rob enjoyed it. I'm super upset that Rob compares it to the Fast and the Furious movies, especially the later ones. But this,
they haven't gotten to that point yet.
This movie is awful. Okay, like the 95 one, like I remember going to the theater being excited, and it was what it was for its time. Sure, it might not hold up, but I've watched that movie maybe 10 years ago, and it still gets me hyped for Mortal Kombat. This movie, like the beginning, like John said, that 7 minutes, take that out, because that sets you up thinking this movie's going to have a story and going to have a plot. It has nothing. Like I would be ashamed.
You have no idea why he's doing this for the Lin Kuei.
Exactly.
But maybe that's coming up in
but I don't give a shit. I don't, like, I'm not coming back for another movie of this. Like,
yes, you are.
The movies, the video games have better stories and better cutscenes, and that's saying something. Like the story for MK10, 11, I haven't played 12 yet, but they're solid. There's enough.
But they also have 8 games before this that they pulled.
But dude, listen, I don't even give a shit. Like this.
Fair enough.
This movie, to introduce something, did a horrible job. The characters, you don't get any characters, and I know I didn't need. It's Mortal Kombat. I know it's going to be a fighting thing, but they decide to change it. Oh, you've got this branded tattoo, and you're invited to the tournament, and like. What was with John said the costumes were there? Okay, that's cool. They did but Sonya's costume was just a fucking tank top and it looked horrible. Give her some combat.
That is exactly what she wears.
Dude,
in the game.
but it looked like shit. Do you know what I mean? They had no budget. Jax, okay, fine, ran around with no shirt on. Kano, you couldn't give him a cybernetic thing? You just scratch his eye and then he shoots eye beams? How they got their powers? What the F? Jax gets put on some things and then it just grows? And then Sonya, and then what's his name shoots thing, and then the main character gets armor. Like, listen, Ed Tobias and what's the other guy's name who created it? Were they even consulted?
Boone.
Boone.
They shouted them out. They shouted them out. Yeah,
because I thought it was a freaking disaster. Did I like Kung Lao's costume? You're right. And what's the other guy's name?
Raiden.
Not Raiden, Kung Lao, Liu Kang. They kind of looked their part.
Yeah.
But then when you saw Raiden, was it me or did they not have enough money to fully white out his eyes? Same thing with Shang Tsung. His eyes would go black sometimes, but it didn't look like they filled it out. This movie looked like they ran out of money. Period. Don't go to all those sets. They could have shot it all in one room, like a a stage, and changed all the stages in CG. But it was awful. Like I was watching this movie. Holly was watching the movie with me, and I'm like, and she's like, I've played the game and it's not this bad. That's what she said. And I'm like, what the shit? Yeah. Now, did it get better at the end when finally Scorpion shows up and then takes the mask off and says he's Scorpion? Sure, it did get better then, but that was like what, an hour and change in.
That was literally the last scene.
Yeah, this movie should not have been made. The Mortal Kombat shorts were better, and the 85 version was better. I haven't rewatched
No, 95 is not better.
It is.
Trust us.
No,
Trust
honestly,
us.
listen.
You got to rewatch it.
No, listen. It at least looked like the game. I would challenge you, dude. Listen. Those guys,
you haven't seen it in 10 years, dude.
Rings out of her arms, John. Just like that's how they got their powers.
That's what she shoots in the game.
But
they actually don't cover in the game how they got.
Andre, wait, Andre, when did you watch the 95 movie? When was the last time you watched?
In 95. Andre has
I own that thing on.
When did you watch it?
Not on Blu-ray, on DVD. I probably watched it about 10 years ago.
Okay,
I would go back and watch that again.
You have to. I rewatched it like 2 days ago.
Listen,
watch it. And then the next podcast, we're going to ask you again.
100%. Dude, I'll go and watch that later. Now, honestly, I almost watched it last night after watching this. There was no fun in this movie. Everyone's like, oh, Kano was fun or whatever. No, he wasn't.
He was hilarious.
And honestly, why would they make this movie what was it? I guess rated R. I mean, when half the audience, you're cutting out half the kids that might have maybe enjoyed this movie.
They're gonna find a way to see
swore
it.
so much and stuff like that. The fatality, there was only really 2 super bloody ones, right? Like the stupid hat one, which again, that was cool. That was close to the game.
Yeah, usually that begins from the other end in the game, which is even more brutal.
See, Andre, what you don't recognize, Andre, it's a quick point, and I know you're
Jax did his clap.
Jax
did his head clap.
Wait, let me go quickly. Right now, with video on demand, and kids get Christmas gifts, which are basically gift cards. They can just buy the movie and watch them themselves. They don't know how money costs, so they're just gonna rent it VOD style and watch it with their buddies.
Well, that's true. Anyway, you're right. You're right.
To get that than it is to go to the movie theater. Like if you can't get a rated R movie, but right now parents are like watching it in their room, and everyone, I got an Amazon gift card for Christmas.
Yeah,
from Nana. So you just spent that money on a rental, and guess what? You spent $20 on that. It's $25 on a rental.
I don't know. I think honestly, 55 million could have been better spent somewhere else. I think if they want to do this type of movie, they've got to spend more money. So maybe if this movie makes money, the next one could be better. But like, I just thought everything about this looked cheap. Yeah. Everything looked like, hey, John, who do you know who can fight? And let's go to Old Navy and buy some stuff. Cabal looked decent. That's about it. Like, what's his name with the 4 arms? Looked ridiculous.
Goro. Yeah, I missed the original Goro.
Like,
no. Original Goro is a Muppet.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
But you know what, dude? Again, I would like, by judging this movie by 2021 standards, you guys can say that it's good. That's shameful. I'll judge that other one by 95 standards. And again, when you didn't make video game movies, or they were all kind of like cheesy and would never have had that budget, but we're in a day and age where video game movies get big budgets. They do these type of CG.
What other video game movie though?
Pardon me?
Think about this, John. Think about this, John. Sorry, Andre, let me interrupt for a second. That original Mortal Kombat movie budget was $122 million in 1995. That's basically like a $250 million movie in today's standards to make that movie. And then this movie was made $55 million. So how, like,
it's a relatively modest budget, I would say.
A very modest budget, because I think they spent probably like,
because no one probably believes in it. People have seen Annihilation, and the entire deluge of movies that I've listed are all crap.
But none of those, John, all those movies you listed, none of them went to the theater. They were all
Mortal Kombat went to the theater.
Sorry,
Chun-Li went to the theater.
You're
Mortal
right.
Kombat,
Sorry, let me
Double Dragon. They all went to the theater except for Tekken except for Tekken and King of Fighters. I think Dead or Alive did go.
Balance it. Mortal Kombat Annihilation cost $51 million. That is the true comparison. Mortal Kombat Annihilation at 51, and even for inflation like that, for 55 million today, that is the budget to budget comparison. Mortal Kombat 1 was a big blockbuster back in the day, and they spent $1 zillion on it, and it flopped.
They spend more on the games. Listen, I wasn't looking for like you guys said, a super story or anything, but it could have had a plot that you could have followed. Why was there no Mortal Kombat? Yeah. Why was there no tournament?
Yeah. And here's the thing,
because Shang-Chi cheated.
A video game, you're basing it on a video game that's about a tournament, and Shang Tsung's like, hey, we're one victory away from winning everything. So let me throw it all away by killing the combatants.
He should have just let it happen.
Beat them 9 times.
But Andre, he did say that the reason they've won so many tournaments because they cheated.
Is because they cheat every time. Yeah,
cheat every time.
I get it. Well, maybe,
but then that doesn't. But that's even
maybe
worse.
Cheating isn't boycotting the whole thing because you've killed all the opponents. Like maybe cheating is like, let's stack the deck. You know what I mean?
Worst statement to say. Well, then you're like, then it's like, well, you guys aren't even that badass. So now you've already depowered all your people to say, well, they're the strongest and best warriors. No, actually, we cheated, so therefore that's why they've won. Not because they're the best fighters, but we cheat. I'm like, well, that just knocks your argument about how badass your people are. So I was like, ugh. But that original Paul Anderson movie, yes, that Paul Anderson, as John and Andre is probably, or John and Rob has spoken before. You know, the next movie he did was Event Horizon. I love that movie. I love Event Horizon. And then
there's a horror movie, right, with Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah, and then there's Soldier, and then Resident Evil, and then Alien.
Oh, Soldier Predator. With Jason Scott Lee.
Yep, Death Race, Resident
and Kurt Russell,
Afterlife, Kurt Russell, Three Musketeers, Resident Evil Retribution, Pompeii, Resident Evil Final Chapter, and Monster Hunter. His resume is just swath of just movies. And
he's just a bit above Yui Bowl, though. Like,
and he ended up marrying Mila Jovovich. So, you know, he walked away with, you know.
What was the budget for Monster Hunter?
Lilu Dallas Multipass. So that's all that matters.
No, because it's a video game movie. I'm curious.
Oh,
okay. It's a video game movie as well.
Yeah, he did Soldier, the Kurt Russell movie. That's correct. With Jason Scott Lee.
Its budget was similar, 60 mil. Yeah.
So yeah, Andre, I get that. Your point.
Oh, I 100% get what Andre's saying. Yes.
Let me go through some questions. First off, I dispute John because Street Fighter Legend Chun-Li, Chris Klein was the best train wreck. I watch the clips on YouTube all the time and laugh. He's the worst actor to play Charlie Nash, and it's so bad it's good. Like this is what the bad it's good portion of it. He is in a different movie. Chris Klein. He is so stiff and so bad. 100%. He should have been in this movie.
I wonder why he got signed up to that.
He probably was like, well, you were for American Pie and you made money. Let's bring you in this movie. So it is. Okay, so John, as you mentioned, Chris, co-writer Greg Rousseau mentioned to Collider that the reboot was part of a trilogy. So the first film was supposed to be pre-tournament. The second film is going to be the tournament itself. And the third film is to take place post-tournament. So it's supposed to be a 3-movie trilogy.
Good luck.
And this is, you know what this is, Andre? That's the Kano womp womp in the background. When I heard that the first time, I was laughing when he said womp womp. And then Joe.
This is like that Tom Cruise mummy thing all over again.
Yeah, they put the cart before the horse. You know, like
Joe Silim, who is the Bo.
Amazing, yeah, Sub-Zero.
Who's Sub-Zero, who plays Bohan, has mentioned he's in for 4 movies. So as I assume it's going to be the Dish trilogy, and then John, to your point, it's going to be a Sub-Zero movie itself to explain what his clan is, because it's never mentioned that he's part of a Chinese.
Don't know
clan.
why.
And again, like Karen and my wife and I were watching it, and she was like, what Mandarin accent is that? And we're like, oh yeah, he sounds, what language? I'm like, oh, he's Indonesian. So we're trying to figure out, like, he was phonetically speaking Mandarin, and I noticed it didn't seem right. So, but nonetheless,
my son was like, first of all, is this entire movie in subtitles? I said, no, it's just the beginning. And then he's like, are they speaking 2 different languages?
No, because him for picking it up.
Well, yeah, but it said Chinese and then it said Japanese.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I was like, so they are.
Understand each other.
And then he was just like, well, they don't really know what they're saying. And I was like, I know, but whatever, man. Just watch the fights. Kicky, punchy.
Okay, question for Andre and John. This is directed to Andre and John. Okay, question to you. If Kano releases comic book, would you release it in your store? Would you buy copies of Kano Adventures?
No.
Drawn by Kano, written by Kano.
His drawing was pretty whack. And as far as Kano goes, he does have a cult following, but he's never been one of the top characters.
No, I want specifically that Kano comic book written by that Kano. You would not stock in your store.
No, 100% no.
Andre?
We would do it by special order only.
Okay, Rob, follow-up question.
Yes.
Maybe Rob Liefeld drew
Andre,
it.
Would I buy the Kano comic book? Is this what the question is?
Would you buy the Kano comic book, and would you make Andre special order it?
Yes, just to piss him off. I'd make him order 2 copies. And I would actually give him one. I would give him one. I'd say, Andre, this is for you.
Great, fantastic. Question 2 for unknown questions. John, I'd like to know, if you were selected in Mortal Kombat, what would your arcana be? What kind of goofy power would you have?
I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of something that would be different than what they did in the movie, and that a character doesn't. I was gonna say, yeah, my hair could go wild, but they have a character in Mortal Kombat that her hair slams you in the face. So I definitely wouldn't want the weird mouth face that Melina has. So
was that her power? I don't think it was. It's just she could open.
No, that's her race. Her race.
Her race,
like,
yeah. So
she's like this weird creature. But I don't know. I did kind of like that Cole was basically Colossus. So maybe I could have like a power like that, or but Kano got the Cyclops. So like, who's left on the X-Men that I could pick?
Wolverine.
Yeah, maybe the claws would be good, or I guess maybe a Psylocke Psyblade that I could.
That's a good one. Psyblade.
And shut off their brain or something. But
okay.
that was one of the most ridiculous parts of the movie, the manifestation of this arcana. It was hilarious.
John's gonna go Psyblade. Rob, what do you got?
I don't care. So what power would I want? I don't know. Just to
spider webs out of his butt.
To talk so much that they would just like give up. Like, I can't handle this anymore. This guy just keeps.
That was Shao Kahn's thing. He would just taunt you in the game. You weak, pathetic fool.
Listen, if I could just be a really good fighter with a bit of super strength, then I'd be happy with that.
That's what they all default are. What's your arcana? You got to answer a question. Come on.
Flight.
Okay.
Lots of characters have flight. Metal legs. Pick metal legs.
Andre's Andre's just shaking his head. He's like, okay, Andre, go for it. What would you pick for your arcana?
Okay, so if I had to have an arcana, I would probably want to pick one of the elements. So you've got
Fire.
Sub-Zero was doing ice.
Yeah.
And then I guess Scorpion is fire.
Yep.
Maybe I would
/
go
Liu
with,
Kang.
I would probably go with like
Lightning.
Earth. And then just be like,
Ooh.
every time Sub-Zero tried to freeze it, I just put a rock barrier to block it, and then smash them with it.
Brand new character in Mortal Kombat 11 called Geras, which uses the earth, which is awesome.
There we go.
Oh,
I want to be Captain Power then. I want to take all of those elements.
No, you get heart, Rob. You get
That's fine. I'll Care Bear stare.
Yeah.
Bitches are like, ah!
Shout out to Mati. Shout out to Mati. That guy's underappreciated. He can speak to animals, yo.
We're not gonna do the voice because we don't even know who voiced that guy is.
We don't even. Anyways. Yeah. I want to talk about Cole Young for a second in terms of his powers. So he has armor and he can make weapons out of his armor, or is the armor part of the weapon? I don't understand. How does that work?
With blades.
So he's kind of Wolverine mixed with Colossus.
So is the armor and the weapons together, or is it the armor?
You see it kind of extrude
out of the armor.
Retreat. Yeah, and retreat into the armor.
It's part of the armor. So can he be kicked again?
My understanding is, you know how the daughter makes him that weird friendship bracelet? It's like kind of a manifestation of this this.
Where'd you get that? Thing. That's a stretch.
That's what it looked like. I'm like, why are they mentioning this weird friendship bracelet?
Shout out to the daughter.
Looks like it's all tied up.
Family's colors. She made a yellow, and like she knew already.
Yeah, she knew. I have these
by the way,
Scorpion.
Yellow and black is a color. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Black and yellow.
You know the colors already. Random question number 2. Cole Young's daughter, does she also have the tattoo or the birthmark? Because if it's part of the family line, is it just
she is of the bloodline?
She's of the bloodline. So wouldn't she also have the Mortal Kombat logo on her, or does it only manifest?
Maybe she never noticed it.
Maybe it's like an X-Men thing where you.
I think it would get passed down. If Cole dies, then it would get passed down the bloodline.
No, but he was born with it. Remember?
He was born with it, so she wouldn't have it. Yeah. Hey, okay. Well,
here's the one thing about the Cole
Why
Young
should it make sense?
Exactly. No.
So
that's
fun part
I'm
two.
You guys are wanting too much for this.
So
you should have just thrown 8 actors.
I was telling Rob before, like, so I watched it first by myself on Friday, and I was like, oh man. And then I made my wife watch it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna fast forward through all the parts, and you're just gonna watch the parts that are kind of cool because she likes action movies, but a lot of talking. I'm like, I'm just gonna fast forward to either lore or fighting. And when you cut it down to like a YouTube clip of 40 minutes, it's actually a really good 40 minutes.
It's gonna be great clips on YouTube.
You fast forward through Cole, like I fast forward a little bit. I'm like, watch this guy Louis Tam talk, and she's like, oh my god, this is awful. I'm like, yep, fast forward. So we get to the point where she was like, she saw the birthmark is over, and she's like, and she turns around, it's like, Santa Claus? And I'm like, oh my god, I started laughing. It's like, it's the Santa Claus. Like, if you kill Santa, you become Santa. So I was like, oh yeah, it is a Santa Claus. She's like, so is that how it works in this universe? Like, if you kill Santa and become Santa, if you kill the birthmark, you get the birthmark. I'm like, yeah, I guess that's how it works. It's the Santa Claus. So
here's what I didn't understand about Cole Young. So he made a very strict point to say that he was an orphan who grew up in Chicago, right?
Chicago. Yeah.
Here's what I really wanted to see when they're near the crescendo, the end of the movie, when his great Amphibian grandfather shows up, Scorpion shows up, and he starts speaking to Cole in Japanese. I really wanted Cole to be like, I don't know what you're saying.
although
he was looking, he's like, Japanese. Okay. Yeah,
although his grandfather speaks all Japanese, but can say "get over here."
He in the afterlife when he was controlling the fire, he learned to say "get over here,"
English, but he can say "get over here." I'm like
3 words in English. That's it.
Like perfect enunciation, like no accent, like perfect. Like, get over here. I'm like, really? That's what you can say? And I'm like, and taking off the mask back and forth. Why? Why is the mask off? Like, here's the thing about the Marvel films: they're not perfect, but they decide. When Captain America takes off the hat, it's off. They don't. He's like, I'm not going to put it back on and off and on and off. It's like
actually, Carly in the end of Winter Soldier kept putting on and taking off the mask like so many times. I was like,
it was COVID protocols.
Yeah,
she had to keep wearing.
But like, it was the mask things that were rough. Okay. Next unanswered question. As Andre mentioned, Mortal Kombat is a very long lineage story. Lots of lore, lots of gore, and that is where this film is struggled. The balance between lore and gore. How much should we do? How much is it? So do you feel, John, that they did any real balance, or they just said we're just gonna stick some lore here, but it's basically all gore? Like, was that the reason why this movie was so bad? Is because they couldn't balance out the two biggest parts of Mortal Kombat.
The top
lore.
It's still the gore. Top of the video game. I'll challenge anyone to name a better video game movie. But I think they should have done what
a video game fighting movie.
A video game movie.
Fighting.
I don't know what
video game fighting.
Well, yeah, fighting game for sure. Video game movie. I would maybe say that maybe there's possibly something better, but you'd have to name it for me to know it because it's not coming to mind.
Any of the Resident Evils?
No, not even close, Andre. Sorry.
No, okay. Them's fighting
not
words,
even close.
buddy.
No, not even close.
Any of the Resident Evils were better than this shit.
No,
any of them.
No,
even
not.
That newest Tomb Raider movie was better than this.
No, it definitely wasn't. It definitely 100% wasn't.
For sure.
With Boyd Crowder in it.
The first Tomb Raider was great. The first Tomb Raider was
no, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was great.
I own it on DVD and tried to watch it so many times and never got even past the first scene.
World of Warcraft was better than this.
No, the box office.
Detective Pikachu was based on a video game, so that's
okay. I'll give.
No, that I don't. Yeah, no, don't. We won't choose.
But I think we established Pokemon is based
Sonic
off
the Hedgehog.
Sonic the Hedgehog was way better than
okay.
This.
Okay, I didn't see that, so I'll give you possibility of those. But definitely in fighting games, it is
yes
definitely the top
in fighting games. But I'm
you
still.
go
I'm
you go rewatch
95,
95, and you will be like, okay, there's a lot of random shite that goes down in 95. And the fighting 100% you will notice that the fighting is not there
until Uncharted comes out. We'll have to wait because that's coming out next.
Yeah.
And Raiden in this movie actually does something as opposed to 95 Raiden, who just literally
I was claiming
around.
for Christopher Lambert actually.
Yeah, he was just sits around and he goes, why don't you just fight? Ramirez, my friend.
What's the question we were on again?
Gore versus lore. Do you think that's the reason why that failed?
No, I think they should have went with. I think they're not going to get the budget that they needed to make this a proper story without cutting out a whole bunch of those fights, which were probably clearly the best part of the movie. So they probably should have tightened it up, like you basically edited a version for your wife. They should have tightened it up and. Less is more. Like, did they need to be talking back and forth so much? No. Was all the weak dialogue that they had my poor guy Louis Tan deliver worth it? No, 100%. They didn't need to do that. He could have just been a down out of his luck fighter that they plucked off the street. They definitely did not make him the focus of the movie. He definitely was not a fleshed out character.
They tried, and it was
but he wasn't. They tried, but he wasn't. You know what I mean? Like, it was kind of like. Let's kind of give him backstory, but let's not give him backstory. He's going to go home in the mid part of the movie and all that kind of stuff. They definitely didn't. So they should have just went, this is a tournament. This is going down. People are fighting, like Bloodsport. Rob mentioned Bloodsport at the top of the podcast. They should have just, Bloodsport I think is a tight hour, 20 minutes or something like that. They should have just tightened it up and just had fights, establish all these characters. Now you get your Sub-Zero, Scorpion spin-offs, and maybe you get a Sonya Blade, Jax, like kind of like Black Ops type thing. I don't know what you would have, but definitely wasn't proper what they did. Yes.
Rob, is that the reason why this movie sucked?
I don't think it sucked as much. Like, you guys are. I think
but like, could it be better if they balanced it out?
I think. Listen, I think you have $55 million. You have a certain target of what you're wanting to achieve with a movie called Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Do you
this
sacrifice
is gonna live on YouTube? It's gonna live
do you
on YouTube.
sacrifice the fights for the story? And people are not watching it for the story. Listen, we just reviewed last week or 2 weeks ago Godzilla versus Kong. We went there for the fights. It sacrificed the human story and the elements that we had all kind of agreed were much more prevalent and enjoyable in like even the first Godzilla movie that sacrificed Godzilla. So where do you find that balance? And so for a movie called Mortal Kombat, people aren't going in there. I think for the majority of people, and I think we have to separate the fact that you've got the gamers and you have people who are just movie watchers who want to watch a popcorn flick. How do you go in there and make it palatable to everybody across? And you have to, unfortunately, you can have some story in there. You can have, but you're going for the gore. That's what Mortal Kombat is. That's what Mortal Kombat didn't have in 1995. You're going in there. You want to see the fatalities on screen that you've played. You want to live the Mortal Kombat experience, and this is probably the best way to do it representation wise. Now, the next movie, could it expand and make it a bit more plot plus having, sure, but then now you're going to probably be pushing that envelope of close to a 2-hour movie, and is that going to be too much? So for me, this delivered on exactly what it set out to do. It set out to show fighting and gore and combat, and I'm okay with it. I wasn't expecting anything more, and I was pleasantly surprised with what I got.
Yeah. Andre?
Okay, so here's the thing.
I just want to know your thoughts on gore versus lore.
Yeah, gore versus lore. This movie is based on a game that has the flimsiest of plot anyways. You're fighting in a tournament to save the realm.
Earthrealm. Yeah.
Okay? It's got nothing to stand on anyways. The fact that they couldn't even deliver that is atrocious. If you want the Mortal Kombat experience, that is what you call an opening crawl. For eons, the Earthrealm has fought the Outer Realm for the blah, 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 blah. This is the 9th tournament. If Earthrealm loses now, they will forever be dominated by Shao Kahn. 12 fighters protect the Earth. Here we go, round 1. And you go walls to the fucking for these fight scenes. But this movie was, like I said, it was just bullshit. Take out all of this stuff. Like, again, I can't get how bad that Jack scene was with the arm. Why are you taking this guy to Raiden's temple and have cybernetic arms put on him? Like, again, like I love video games. I've been growing up with it. I will believe the most implausible shit. But there's a point when there's too much. How did Sonya Blade even capture Kano? Right? She's living in a trailer. She's not even part of the military. If you don't have the budget to do these things and mention these things, don't fucking do it. $55 million is nothing. And they spent most of it on that opening scene, which was amazing. You know what this opening scene this movie should have been? Mortal Kombat, the origin of Scorpion. And if it was just him trying to learn how to to control fire or whatever the shit he did, done. Give me the origin of those two characters or whatever. But this is like, it's a failure. Like you said, Stu, I didn't know the 95 movie had that big of a budget, but I remember watching that movie and the music coming on and being hyped. And sure, I was less than I was a kid, but this, again, none of the fights here, with the exception of the last one, was I actually hyped up or excited for. None of them. The training montage, nothing. And so when John says these guys are actual fighters, I didn't know that. Okay, Sonya Blade taking the guy down, the Kano down in his house. Okay, fine, that was cool. But everything else, we have seen better stuff from B-list movies, from C-list movies, whatever. I think they've done a disservice to the franchise with this. I could be wrong, but like these video games, John, you're a video game fighter. They reinvented how the game played when they added X-rays and the run button and all this stuff. The game is an innovator, right? So it's sad that this is the thing, like that they can't pull it off. So maybe they should have gotten Anderson to do it again, because he's learned a lot doing video game movies. And even though they're different, they still have a piece of the soul of what it comes from. Like, you know.
Yeah, I can say one thing. I also watched Mortal Kombat. You can see the money in that movie, like the sets of like they built probably all that island stuff in an island somewhere or whatever. Like it looks expensive, the movie, but it looks terrible at the same time.
You're bananas if you like that scene on the boat and everything. Like it's No, what are you talking about?
No, but they don't have. They could not
build. They build that boat. They could have just rented a boat.
Yeah, like honestly,
they built a
didn't even build a full boat.
That
It was
movie,
just
they could
the
take advantage
stern.
of CGI. Where now they just CGI everything. Back then,
Yeah,
it's
but
like, we got a
Rob,
full
you know,
location.
there's a little bit like, here's the thing. There's a little bit of hypocrisy when you scoop the vote for that being the best video game movie, and we all agreed on it now, and now you say it's unwatchable. You can't watch it through the view of the eyes of today and say, oh yeah, it was a pile of shit. No, it was not a pile of shit back then. Do you know what I mean? Like, and now, and there's so many movies we can do that with. If you go back and watch whatever, sure, take a movie from 95, take a movie from whatever. There's very few movies that you can watch today and go, wow, that stands up on special effects, plot, dialogue, all these things, right? Especially a movie that is genre, like that is going to be of a video game, of a sci-fi, of a thing. We have nostalgia for it, right? And we grew up liking it. But you can also, like I said, you can recognize, like, if they put that much bank into it, then like that's unheard of, right? So I'm gonna watch it today. I'm gonna rewatch 95 today, and I'm gonna come at you guys in the Sidekick show or whatever another time.
Oh boy, this
I didn't have any fun watching this movie. Now, maybe caveat it with maybe coming off of watching something great like Winter Soldier and stuff. Maybe I wasn't, and that's the thing. But I will safely say, most of the movies that have come out that we've reviewed recently, I've been disappointed with because they haven't delivered on, I think, certain basic things. Like Kong versus Godzilla, I was like, whoa, they're lucky it didn't come out in theater or whatever. Or you know, even stuff like Tenet,
Wonder Woman.
Maybe Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Maybe it's part and parcel of missing the movie experience and going with friends and having your popcorn and just being,
yes, 100%. If you watch this movie sitting by yourself, that's gonna suck.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm actually, though, I would have been, if I went to the theater to see this, I think I would have been like, with the cost of everything, I would be like, oh, like, you know, money is precious, and I only allot a certain amount of money to see movies in theaters. And so I was actually I was okay with a $25 price tag to sit at home, right? It would have cost me triple that to go to take my son and I, plus popcorn and all the other crap, right? And,
Yeah.
like,
And the time to drive out there and all that stuff. Yeah. Next question. Dream casting. They left on the teaser of Johnny Cage. John Ho is your Johnny Cage? Who is the best person they could cast? Who is the ideal person they could do for Johnny Cage in the second movie?
I don't know if Internet Rumors is The Miz or whatever. I'm not familiar with this guy. He's a wrestler or something like that. But I would have, like, my original choice, we kind of did this question, but my original choice would be Scott Adkins. And I think he was attached at some point to a Mortal Kombat reboot. He is the martial artist in Expendables. He's Jean-Claude Van Damme's like second in command. He was in Doctor Strange. I'm trying to think
can he do the jokes? Is he gonna be the new Kano? I think he, because that's what he has to be. He has to carry.
No, he usually plays like a kind of like a darker villainous type character. So maybe not. Maybe I would have to go with shout outs to Frasier, Jason David Frank, the Green Ranger, who could probably handle goofing around and making and kind of making fun of himself. So I would probably steal Frasier's answer then.
Rob?
I don't know. I mean, can you just, so he's supposed to be funny? Is this
because that's who Johnny Cage is.
He's the comic relief in the video game. So that's kind of weird that they did not
like, and they killed Kano, so they need another guy, because if you watch that movie, clearly
Kano will be back.
Everyone else felt like they were being held hostage or against their will in this movie. Everyone's acting like as if they were holding
Danny
their family.
McBride. Like Danny McBride.
Not your boy?
Good to know you're taking things seriously, Rob.
No, I because you know what the problem is. I'm trying to think what action, like I'm trying to think of a Caucasian, because he's Caucasian, right? No, he's too musky, he's too bulky. Like, you need somebody who's like, I was thinking, what about Scott Eastwood? I mean, I did originally say Wyatt Russell. I think we talked about that last week. What martial art? I don't know. Whatever. Scott Eastwood.
You made the same noise as if you had sand in your eyes. That's great. Finally, we just gotta. Andre?
You know, unfortunately, I don't know anybody. I don't know any martial artists, and obviously they're clearly picking martial artists. I don't know anybody who, you know, I just don't know the actors.
Is there anyone that you could cast that you would actually want to watch a follow-up? Like you'd be like, oh, I want to see what they do with it.
Well, not that would fit in this movie because you need a martial artist. You can't.
God, you don't necessarily.
What about
let the
Andre,
stuntman do the work?
Say Finn Jones. He was so good in an Iron Fist.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. All right.
Andre chooses Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise. There we go.
Oh, brutal. All right. We're okay. Here we go. John, what is the worst part of this movie?
Oh, worst part. Oh, Jesus. There's actually quite a lot to name. I think it's
go through your list. What's the worst part of this movie? What name the top 3, and then I'll be interested to see what everyone else's thoughts are. Could you
Shang to Tsung for sure. It's got to be on that list. The dialogue in general. Unfortunately, the dialogue was just very, very forced. Like I don't know if they didn't have someone writing more natural dialogue, but yeah, everything. Unfortunately, that my guy Louis Tan said was very like forced and like kind of like wasn't well scripted. I don't know if I would pinpoint. I would probably say that the dialogue, like they should just have been like Andre, front crawl or whatever, and then here's some fights, and then okay, we're good. Now you might see more movies exploring who these dudes and dudettes were. Like,
to be fair to Andre's point, you can just go on YouTube and watch the MK11 cutscenes, and it's a way better movie experience. Just watch the fan cuts of Mortal Kombat 11, the cinematic scenes, and you're like, oh, this is
but they have basically unlimited budget. They can render whatever they want. They created an apocalyptic wasteland, that kind of stuff. So all kinds of different variables. But yeah, definitely that is 100% better storytelling than we got here.
Rob,
but yeah.
Channing Tatum, by the way, for John.
Hey,
there you go.
Yeah.
The worst. Sorry, did you say the 3 worst parts?
Just the worst part.
Oh, just the worst part. Louis Tan.
You can do 3 if you want, but yeah.
No. I don't say Louis Tan, and I don't mean to. Like, I think his fighting was amazing. Like, I thought it was very believable. I was like, okay, this is not somebody who was trained just for this movie. He has skill. I think he was a stuntman before, so yes. So he he is a martial artist, and I appreciate that it's not just somebody being trained for the movie, but his delivery in this movie rests on his shoulders, and unfortunately, it's just not. It's not good.
Andre.
Well, yeah, they've already picked the big 2, so I'm gonna pick the stupid fight scene with the flying gargoyle woman who did nothing but decided just to fly down and run into a hat. Like she didn't even land a hit. Yep. You know what I mean? It's just like,
in all fairness, the hat was spinning like a blade.
Yeah. And then he put it on, and it's still all bloody. Like, wouldn't it have been cool if he just like it did some magic thing? And
in the video game, he kind of like goes like this and everything flings off of it.
Yeah. See, no budget. There's no, like, you can't.
The budget was there. They just chose to do different things.
No, I just look back and I'm like, man, you can't do that movie.
Yeah. It's weird because, as John mentioned, I love Louis Tan. He was probably my favorite part in Iron Fist, and when he showed up as the
drunken master.
He just wasn't given good dialogue
I don't know, because that's a problem, because you have that much time to work on it and to do craft. And he did talk on TV that he lost the biggest role of his life and then was given Mortal Kombat, and he later said, oh, it was Shang-Chi. So he was in auditions for Shang-Chi, and Simu Liu got it. And now you're kind of like, did Marvel just dodge that bullet? I don't want to say bad things about Louis Tan, but like, it is one of those things where Simu Liu probably is not a better martial artist, and he's probably not a better actor, but he's more funny, at least. If you watch Kim's Convenience, he's not a great actor.
He's definitely a better actor than that guy.
And that's the thing. Like, Simu Liu is not the best actor
delivery.
In the world, but in this,
but how can you know what? We've only seen him in Kim's Convenient, and he does a passable job there, right? But more than passable, I would say. So now we get to see if he can grow into it. And on this note, if I bet you any money we'll look back at Shang-Chi, and once we see his second and third appearance, I think he's going to grow into that role. Yeah. I don't think we could expect, like, this is his first big thing. The guy's probably got butterflies, jitters. Like, could you imagine if this is your first big gig? So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully he gets like Marvel's not going to have just signed him for one picture option, so he'll get better. But if this guy was going to be Shang-Chi, or hell no,
I still think that he, like, again, the rumors were also he was in running to be Iron Fist before, because he was originally going to be the Iron Fist, and then they went with Finn Jones instead. He, at the end of the day, he's of mixed race origin. His mom is Caucasian, so if he could probably be better Iron Fist than Finn Jones, at least. So if they're gonna go through it again, and Iron Fist is not exactly funny, so if they had to redo it again in a TV show, I think there's still an option for him. But clearly, him being the regular accent is rough. Like, even though that's his normal standing, he doesn't have an English accent, even though he's born in Manchester. Like, it's really weird. Like, he has one of those things. Same with Ludi Lin. Like, I like the guy, but like his accent in this movie, I was like, where are you from? Like, I was like, I don't know what he's supposed to sound like. Like, it was so weird. Like, I watched Liu Kang talk, and I'm like, I was confused. I'm like, you're like, just talk like a regular dude. Like, maybe that's it, because he was really stiff too, in terms of his, like, he really was pushing for this faux kind of Hong Kong accent, I guess, because he's probably trying to copy Robin Shu's like original accent, but it was really rough. Like, I just sat there going, the accent choices, like, everyone here in this movie is Australian, and you could tell that, like, even Sonya Blade, she's Australian, and she was like, her Australian was coming out,
But so, you know what? Like, it's the dialogue throughout the movie is not well written.
Yeah,
and this
that's
is
what I'm
not
saying.
To say
I think they were given poor dialogue.
And this is not to say that Mehcad Brooks is a much better thespian, but when he's given those words to say and he's delivering it, it sounds very natural comparative to what Louis Tan did. It sounded like he was in an acting class, and so that it is an interesting. He didn't have that during Iron Fist, so I'm just very.
Did you guys say
surprised.
This is a first-time director too?
That is correct. Yes.
So maybe the director just doesn't. He says
I-
cut.
I-
That was
I
a good take.
I think he was
the
just
guy
given
doesn't know shit, right?
Yeah,
Fair.
he's definitely an actor that needs to grow, I think.
And I think the other thing,
I think he was just given poor dialogue to do.
And here's the other thing too, but Simon McQuaid or McQuaid or whatever, the director, what he did was a disservice to the martial artists, because I watched that movie. You could have done a long cut and standing. You don't have to cut, because these guys are actually fighting. So by them cutting back and forth, I'm like, why? You only use that when guys don't know how to fight, and you have to like share their backs. So you're like hiding the fact that you did one long cut of them fighting in that pit, and show them like you could do this one take. It probably was one take, but they cut it in the editing floor to make it look like all these flash cuts back and forth. I'm like, what are you doing? Why? The reason you bring martial arts here, or martial artists, is that you can do a long cut without pulling away and showing like,
let them show their skills.
Listen, in the age of Daredevil fight scene in a hallway, where it looks like one scene, and it's very,
and it was one scene.
Well, no, there wasn't. There were edits, and you can see where the edit points are, but it's so masterfully hidden that it looks, comparative to Iron Fist that had 47 cuts inside of a storage room because he couldn't fight. So you're right. They could have made this look like the Kingsman fight scene in the church, like the hallway Daredevil fight scene, like the Punisher fight scene in jail. Like, you could have made it look like this and have been floored your viewers to being like, wow, this is one long ass fight scene. And you're right, they did.
Like, well, you have Joe Taslim, and you don't do a long running shot raid style.
Like here's the thing. Like, I get it. Like, you're not doing Goodfellas. Like, you're not going in the back and you're not
tracking
of men with that long cut in the car. But like, my God, like, you have these actors who can really fight, and you just cut back and forth. I'm just like, oh man, this is like, again, maybe if they can spend their money on like a Johnny Cage actor and get a better director, this next movie will get to the point, because they've been non-committal on, if this guy's doing a second movie, like, it's gonna make back its money of 55 million, because this movie's it is what it is. But if you're gonna build upon it, let's hope they do some more things. All right. Oh, those are the worst parts. Okay, we're finish it off with, what's your favorite part, John? What's the part you like the most?
Definitely the and you can, it's an indication of where you probably enjoyed the movie. Joel Taslim as I don't know how you pronounce his last name, as Sub-Zero. You have him opening the movie, really cool, like look to him, menacing. Sub-Zero's got like this horror like feel, and then you proceed to not bring him back until the very closing of the movie. So there's essentially going to be 2 clips with this actor who did, I think, a really good job with what he was given. And definitely I think he's the one that is reported to have signed on for the 4 movies. So I think he was the best part of the movie.
I think they're all signed on, but he's the only one that confirmed it.
He said something. Yeah.
He said something. Everyone else is like, I don't know if I want to be in more of these movies. Rob.
My initial instinct is to say the beginning with Hiroki Sanada, which means I actually am planning to now watch 47 Ronin, because that is a phenomenal, like, it can't reason me. That's pure ninja action, so I'll probably watch that today. And it's on Crave, and people, you have until the end of May before it gets removed. So do yourself a favor and watch that movie. But I have to say, I'm going to give a big shout out to Kano. I laughed my ass off in a lot of his delivery, especially the scene, when they're in Sonya's trailer house abode. I don't know whatever.
It's a weird compound.
So he honestly, he was funny. Like he was chewing scene like Big League Chew, and it made me laugh. I mean, he didn't take things too seriously, and he was quite funny. So for me, if I'm gonna get rid of any of the fight scenes and this and that, I got to give it to that guy. He made me. I was pissing my pants laughing. So,
Andre,
I didn't really pee my pants.
Just the trailer.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough. Yeah,
I think the trailer
it was a misleading.
Sure. I remember we talked about the trailer, and I was super hyped for it.
Yeah.
And when I say hyped, like I wasn't like, oh my god, I'm counting down the days, but I'm like, oh man, this actually looks very, very good. And whoever cut that trailer did a fantastic job.
Mm-hmm. But that happens a lot, man. We are getting hoodwinked on these amazing trailers, and then the product is so you're right. People who cut those trailers, give them the director's job, because they know how to edit.
The ones that technically don't are the Marvel ones. What they do, the Marvel ones, they cut the trailer, but they add in all the scenes that aren't in the movie. So they have to basically if you watch the Marvel,
but tonality, it is usually the same tone of the movie. This, they definitely sold like a horror serious element, whereas this was like cheese.
Yeah. It's as Ed the Flock would say, fromage. A lot of fromage. Much music. Hashtag much music memories. Okay, so as we finish off, what are your hopes for this following sequel? That John, what do you hope for the next movie? Like, what do you want? What do you want in this? Like, what do you want?
I definitely think they got to step up the storyline, like Andre said, like the video game.
They actually have to have a Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
How about that?
I don't know if they necessarily have to have a tournament. I think it would have helped. I think it would have helped, especially in this establishing movie, to do a blood sport style tournament where you throw all these characters in and then they get established. But I would hope for more of a time. Like when I did watch this, I was like, man, why is there not a DLC for these costumes for all these characters that I could play?
Because they knew it was 11? Crap.
Maybe.
When they watched,
and why is there not?
Who is it? Boone and Tobias or Sabat or whatever? They probably saw it and said, Boone, no, we aren't bringing this into Warner Brother Games. Like, no, we're not the.
Yeah. Like, but like I'm watching them establish these stages, and I'm like, oh, it'd be so cool to use these stages. And one of the new gimmicks of Mortal Kombat is interactable environments, so they could have Sonya's compound, and you go on the floor, or you pull the garage down on Goros, silly stuff like that. So I would expect at least it to have a video game component. I'd be happy with that.
Okay, Rob,
what do I want out of a sequel? I want to take Andre to the theater and watch it together. I want to share a great big bag of popcorn, and I want to do this every time there's something on the screen. You know what? Listen, again, it goes back to the fact that this movie, for me, it is what it is. I don't need anything more. So maybe a bit. So I don't want to see a retread. I don't want to see the same type of fatalities, the same type. Like we've seen Sub-Zero now make the ice wall and everything else like that. So give me some different stuff. A bit better dialogue, some good action scenes, and I'll be good. Will I actually go to the theater to see this movie, like the sequel? No, I probably won't. I don't even think they do half price Tuesdays anymore. So I probably wouldn't. I would wait for it to come out for a rental or on streaming on Crave.
Oh, we're gonna force you to go. We're all gonna go together and watch this movie in the theater.
That's fine, but I want to sit next to Andre. I was like,
I've enjoyed the sit next to Andre experience. We watched Batman v Superman, and Andre and myself really love that experience because we're both ready to leave. We're both like arms on the chair. We're about to get up.
Yeah.
When the bats are flying, we're like, what the? And we're just like, and then it's like, it was a dream. And we both sat back down. We're both like,
my brother-in-law did get up at the end, like after the Sub-Zero Scorpion fight, and leave and just go, hey, tell me what happens at the end. He was like, I'm done with this.
So no, there's shared suffering involved. That's what this podcast is all about. Shared suffering. Here we go. Andre, I'm going to ask you, even though you want no part of it, what would you hope in the future for this franchise, like for the next movie?
Okay, so what I hope
give some notes
for the franchise, I want them to take their $55 million budget and give me an animated movie. Go overseas, get an animated.
They did one before this.
Yeah, the Scorpion movie. Yeah,
Scorpion something. Yeah, it's
yeah. Okay. I would get one of the great animation houses. Doesn't matter from where, but it's just I would do an overseas one, and I would just make the movie that way. You know,
like an anime style.
It's just this was like and hey, maybe that's the thing. Maybe we want too much. Maybe it can't be done. Maybe they say, oh, in order to make a good Mortal Kombat movie, they need 300 million. Well, they haven't proven that it's gonna get to there. But listen, I will just tread. If I had to do a live action movie, why wouldn't they have just said, done the tournament in this one, they lose, and then the sequels are fighting on what is it called?
Outworld, yeah.
Outworld, as they've taken over Earthrealm. So now it's the heroes doing a resistance. Wasn't that the plot of like number 11? Yeah. So you could have had them trying to fight back and still do this tournament style. Be like, oh, hey, shit, we had Mortal Kombat in the first one. They fucking lost because they only had one thing and they had all these rookies. And then you show them as a resistance. And in the fourth movie, maybe freaking Raiden decides, okay, shit, I got to take, take the gloves off. I got to help Earth get back. Yeah. But like whatever this was, there's no way in hell I'm going to watch whatever they do next.
No, at one point, the Lord Liu Kang loses and dies.
Yeah, and he becomes evil. So I have to stand corrected. I was wrong. The worldwide budget they made was $124 million. They made that much. The budget for the first movie was $18 million. So the original movie was $18 million. So yeah, I was completely wrong. I switched the numbers around. So yeah, that budget for the first movie
made money. Yeah.
So
it's cheap.
If you did 18 million it's probably about the same amount of money, and somehow it made $124 million, 51 million international, 73 million in the United States. So I don't think this movie Mortal Kombat's gonna make $124 million. The new one.
Yeah, it's different time.
It's different time. And that was when you could buy movie tickets for what, $6? So $725. So yeah, it made $124 million back then. And yeah, I'm wrong and I'm dumb. So that's what it is. So before people come at me, I mistakes were made. It was only 18 million. So yeah, that is where we're at. So okay, as we roll things up and we finish off, Andre, what do you have for I Have Spoken this week for us?
All right. So in this edition of I Have Spoken, since we're on this whole video game kick, I am going to recommend a brand new, super affordable statue based on one of my favorite video games to come out this year. And it is, hopefully you guys can see this, it is the female V from Cyberpunk from CD Projekt Red. This is another great Dark Horse product. And she's fully painted, not a posable figure. It is a statue. Very, very cool. I tend to like the female design character for this statue. The male one is a little bit more generic, and he's got a big, one of the big arm blades in it. but it's a great piece. It's super affordable. If you've played the game, I think you like it. There's also a statue of Jackie to go with. So if you like cyberpunk and you need some more cyberpunk, shall we say, paraphernalia, you definitely want to check that out. John, is it on our website yet?
Yep, they're both on our website. Yeah.
Yep, they're both on our website, so you can check them out. And Cyberpunk was a game that had some controversial views. I played it and absolutely loved it, but I did have my experience on the new Xbox, so I didn't have all the bad experiences previous gen people. But I do believe the game is worth checking out for the story alone. This game has a great story, more so than any of its other components, and that's something that this Mortal Kombat movie lacked. So I have spoken. Check out Dark Horse's Female V statue, available at Heroes World.
Rob, you're on mute.
So I just came out. Forbes says that domestically, Mortal Kombat just made $22.5 million in theaters, which is the first one in '95 made 23.5. So that, I mean, listen, for a pandemic where only a certain number of theaters were open in the US, 22 and you can see it if you had HBO Max, right? In the US. Yeah. So 22.5 million is
and it got delayed. It aired overseas like a week before we got it over here. So it was already on YouTube. There were clips on YouTube before it even was out for us to watch over here. So who knows what's
so I just wanted to throw that out because it just came out.
Yeah, good catch.
Yeah, it is what it is. This is the new normal in the pandemic. So it will probably balance out the budget, but it will remain to see if they're gonna write this off as like, it's a pandemic, all this stuff, we'll fix it in the next one, or they're just like, yeah, we're done. So we'll see what happens. John and Andre, where can we find you guys on the internet and in the real world?
Yeah, so Andre just made a great mention of it. The Heroes World online website, heroesworld.ca or heroesworldonline.com. You will see that exact cyberpunk statue posted on there. And if you follow us on social media, on the Instagram and the Facebook, we did post photos of it, and they will be tagged with where you can find those products. So thank you so much for supporting. A lot of people are checking out the website and using it. We did a whole bunch of the Fortnite comics through the website. So we do have the new Fortnite third printing for #1 and second printing for #2 on the website. Shout outs to Rob, who sent a whole bunch of his buddies from Ajax and Whitby to come by and grab some of those comics. That was pretty awesome.
I think it was my son's friends.
Yeah. Shout outs to Noah, who shares in my joy for this movie. So yeah. Credit to Noah. We're gonna have to send him something nice. And not for Rob, and because Rob took Kelly's shirt that I sent her. But anyways, yeah. So and if you're on the YouTube, please subscribe, like, give us some comments and share. And then if you're listening on audio, iTunes, Spotify, please give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps us out. And thank you so much, everybody, for listening and sharing.
Awesome. Andre?
Yeah, so we are still operating the store that is at 8601 Warden Avenue, 8601 Warden Avenue. That's Highway 7 in Warden in Markham. We are still, unfortunately, under the lockdown, so we can't have in-store shopping, but curbside, and we are there pretty much 5 days a week from Tuesday to Saturday, and we're there about 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock daily. So you can call, email, message us on Instagram or YouTube or Google. If you need help, need a recommendation, need a suggestion, or just want to check if we've got a product and want to arrange a local pickup, come on by. We're here to help still, and we could use the support. And thank you for all the likes, subscribes, and shares as we've hit our milestone of 1,000 views, or 1,000 subs, sorry, not views, on our new YouTube channel, or our YouTube channel. It's not really new, but we finally hit that.
Nice. Awesome. Rob?
Yeah, so people can find me on Instagram at @the_905, which is all spelled out. You can join John and I Mondays, 8 o'clock. Every Monday we do the Heroes World Sidekick show live on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. Majority of our viewers, I guess you could say, they watch it through YouTube, and we have a huge, massive chat that goes back and forth, sometimes actually ignoring John and I, and then just talking.
Some crazy stuff goes on there.
Yeah. Awesome. So please join us tomorrow. We are doing so weirdly, we are trying to find the top 5 Nicolas Cage movies of all time. And I think we're going to try to not have too much overlap. So
no, we're not.
Thanks for earning the cheese, John. So we are.
Stu's got to send me his list of legit movies.
My list is not going to even follow your list. It's going to be really bad. I think
Stu's is going to have the Death and Return of Superman, just because there's so much out there from that movie. So at any rate, we join us tomorrow, 8:00 Eastern, on YouTube. And thanks for watching.
Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, supporting. Again, if you cannot help your local stores in your area, please do your best. They definitely need your help, especially in Ontario, where things are shut down. If you can support John and Andre, please do. If you can't, monetary wise, like, subscribe, share, that helps all as well to get Andre and John more exposure on the web and get them kind of help there for people to also recognize the store that's located in Markham as well. So do what you can, remain safe, be cool, and yeah, I look forward to the next Mortal Kombat when we're all stuck in a theater together.
Andre, get over here.
Andre's gonna be kicking. Thanks, Andre, for watching this. I don't think we should have dragged Andre into this on his own.
No, you know what? I was looking forward to it, right? So it's not.
We are, like Rob said, he's gonna get over here and drag Andre to the movie with us, because if it's gonna happen, we must
your soul is mine.
I'm gonna make you like everything I like.
No, if we're gonna watch something, we're gonna watch it all together. So let's see what happens. All right, everyone, be cool, have fun. See you later. See you all next week.
Okay, thank you again, Stu.
Happy birthday, Andre.
Yes, thanks, guys. Take care.
Nice. Bye.